So how do we now start transacting within Business Central? First area we're going to look at is general journals. Now, it's worth noting we recommend that each staff member's got their own journal. What we don't want to do is have multiple staff members working from one journal and causing conflicts. Second thing that we tend to recommend is that this copy VAT setup to journal lines is unticked. So just for day-to-day transactions, we're not always going to want to associate a journal with VAT. You know, it could be that we just want to move stuff or, you know, correct errors in processing, whatever it happens to be. So I'm just going to go into Azure and take you through the steps here. Now, what we don't need for a general journal is a document type. These are generally associated with other areas of the system that we're going to revisit later. But what I am going to do is imagine that, for example, we've allocated too much in rent expense, whereas it should have gone into utilities. So the first step we're going to do is select our rent expense account and type in minus 200 on the amount. What I've also added to this is both the debit and credit, so you can see how the system's working. Now, I've got the system set up to show both, just so that I can illustrate the way that everything's working. Some companies will just keep to amount and either put, you know, 200 or negative 200. Some companies will just work from debit and credits. Others will do both in the way that we're using here. Okay. So we've got that coming from rent expense, and now what we want to do is we want to associate this with the same document number because it's the same transaction, but this time we want to go into utilities and say that we need to add the 200 that we're taking there, because of course this needs to balance, as you can see from the debit and credit there. Okay. If we don't want to use two journal lines, we can do it on the same line using the balancing account. Depends on the complexity of what you're trying to do within the journal. Okay. Another thing worth touching on before we post this is that you can also copy journal lines into Excel. Yeah, so if you've got a lot of work to do with journals and you're not wanting to sort of whiz backwards and forwards between the columns in Business Central, you can just copy into Excel to take the header lines and then obviously update your rows accordingly as a quicker way of doing that processing. Yeah, very easy to do. So I'll come out of that, go back into Business Central and just post these transactions. So let's go in here, post, and post. So what that will do is it'll ask us whether we want to post the journal lines. If they don't balance, it's not going to let us post a journal, but we'll click on yes. Journal lines were successfully posted. So now if we go back into our chart of accounts and we go into rent expense and dig into the detail here, we can see that we've taken out 200 here. And if we then go into our utilities expense, we can then see 200 that's landed there. Okay, but if it's not as clear cut and we want to scrutinize a little bit more, what we can do is we can go into the transaction, we can go into navigate, and then we can see the number of entries related to this particular row on our general ledger line. So I can click on that hyperlink and it will show me exactly what happened to process that, so we can see exactly where that came from, which is ace. To order Dynamics 365 licenses or to sign up to a 30-day free trial, navigate to d365.link/now.